Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Up Close on METV. I'm Charles Clapsaddle, Station Manager for Manatee Educational Television. And it's our great pleasure to have with us today two individuals who continue to make a difference in our community and throughout the state. Please welcome Ms. Susie Bowie, Executive Director of the Manatee Community Foundation. Susie, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us today about a wide variety of things.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have you here. And joining us also from the Knight Foundation is George Abbott. And George, you're the Program Manager for the Knight Cities Challenge. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep.
Well, welcome to Manatee County, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And one of the things I'd like to start out, and George, please give us as much information as you can. What is the Knight Foundation? And tell us a little bit about the scope and the vision of what the Knight Foundation does.
Sure. So the Knight Foundation is a national foundation, but we have deep local roots in 26 cities where the Knight brothers own newspapers. Mm-hmm. So the Knight brothers owned the Miami Herald. At one point, they had the largest media company in the whole world. And they left their fortune to continue the work that the newspapers had done, now that they didn't own the newspapers anymore. So our mission is to create informed and engaged communities, and we work that mission in four different ways, so four different program areas. So we invest in excellence in journalism, we invest in the communities where the papers were based, we invest in technology information as well as the arts too.
So that's really a wide scope of interest that the Knight Foundation has.
Yeah. I mean, we've kind of refined our mission over the years. We started out when the Knight brothers were still alive. The foundation was kind of much more in their control, and they would give to Knight chairs in journalism at specific universities. But they wrote our founding charter in such a way that it gave the future staff the license to, change the foundation for the times that we're living in. So
and very wise and very beneficial. And one of the things that we're going to take some time to talk about is because of the Knight Cities Challenge, of which the city of Bradenton is very fortunate to be included in. First of all, what makes Bradenton a Knight City community member? What's the requirements or the prerequisites that designates a city as a Knight city?
Sure, it's actually very simple, but that is the question I get most of all. How can we become a Knight city? There's no way to become a Knight city. So the 26 Knight cities are places where the Knight brothers own newspapers when the second Knight brother died. So that's how they decided on which cities, because they did have newspapers in other places like Chicago, but they sold them before the end.
So it's very fortunate that the Knight owned a paper here in Bradenton, so they can continue to be part of this Knight City vision and their mission. But Susie, I want you to talk a little bit about what's the Knight Foundation's relationship to the Manatee Community Foundation, because it would seem you'd be like at different areas. There's this large national organization with a vision, and the Manatee Community Foundation is here dedicated to helping citizens of Manatee County.
That's a great question. So a lot of people may not know, but there are between 700 and 800 community foundations around the country. And as you might imagine, our specialty is really engaging in community. It's all about growing philanthropy, engaging community. So we are very, very fortunate to have a partnership with the Knight Foundation that we've had for many years. In fact, it's because of the Knight Foundation that we started a community foundation in Manatee County. There was a challenge grant that was available in the late 90s, and we were able to take advantage of that to really start up Manatee Community Foundation. And then in 2003, the Knight Foundation issued a challenge to grow our first $1 million in endowed funds. So we were able to meet that challenge, and ever since then, Manatee Community Foundation has continued to grow. So not only do we appreciate them being in our city so that we can increase the level of engagement among young people, old people, and everything in between, but it was really foundational in terms of our history of Manatee Community Foundation. So,
and what a great partnership as well. You know, it kind of like, you know, dovetails right into the mission of what, you know, the Manatee Community Foundation has always had.
It absolutely does, and I think it becomes even more relevant, Charles, with every year, because more donors now are interested in making informed decisions about their philanthropy than ever before. They want to be more actively engaged in their giving and the organizations they're supporting. So as we support our donors through Manatee Community Foundation, we can really take advantage of a lot of the digital tools that are available through the Knight Foundation, the way that they take care of their cities, and the forward thinking that they have both on their staff level and with the other organizations that they support. There's a great learning community out there, and we all get to be part of that because of the Knight Foundation.
And there's really no way that we could do our work without the partnerships that we have with Manatee Community Foundation and other community foundations in our other cities.
And I think that's a wonderful thing. It's an ongoing partnership that, you know, benefits both the Knight Foundation as well as all of these other foundations throughout the nation. So it's a wonderful, you know, concept, and the Knight Foundation is to be applauded and commended for this kind of visionary effort that they continue to make. But one of the things I'd like to know about is the Knight Cities Challenge, and that's something which I think is very unique. And George, tell us a little bit about that. And also, you mentioned focus areas before. What are those focus areas for the Cities Challenge?
Sure. So the Cities Challenge is really the broadest call for ideas that we make throughout the year. So it's an open call for ideas in all 26 of our cities, for ideas that focus on one of 3 focus areas. So through our research, through grant making, we've identified 3 things which are important to cities being successful. They're attracting and retaining talent, and there we're talking specifically about college-educated people, because the more of them you have in your city, the better economy you have. Really, the amount of graduates you have drives your economy. And it drives up kind of wages across the board, not just for those graduates that you have. So attracting them and then keeping them is key. But allied with that, we also seek to increase economic opportunity, so to broaden the pathways towards success. So we think that one really important thing that links in with our first goal of attracting and retaining talent is reducing barriers between different populations. So reducing segregation, encouraging socioeconomic mixing. I think one of the disturbing trends we've seen is that we're seeing, you know, more and more, you know, rich people live here, poor people live here, and never the two shall meet. So we want to do everything we can to combat that. And then finally, something which underpins both of those two and underpins every successful city is civic engagement. So it's right there in our mission, informed and engaged communities. We believe that civic engagement makes communities stronger, and we believe that the only people who can decide the future of the community are the people who live in it every day. So those are our 3 goals. The challenge is a mechanism. We also believe that good ideas can come from anywhere and from anyone. So the challenge makes it very, very easy for anyone to submit an idea that moves 1 or 2 or even all 3 of those outcomes forward.
And what a great concept, you know, because as I'm listening to you describe these, in a way, they're all kind of interconnected.
Absolutely.
You know, one drives another, and it's kind of like a fabric of effort. And so, as you look at these efforts, as you're looking at the Foundation's Cities Challenge, you look, and someone like Susie will come and say, you know, George, we have this wonderful concept of what we want to do that meets one of these focus areas that you're looking at. And whatever that might be, it might be something that has to do with civic engagement or economic equity, and you'll look at that and say, well, this is a wonderful opportunity. And you evaluate those?
Yeah, so the way it works is, we're looking for very specific things through the challenge. So there's $5 million in the pot available for grants, which, sounds like a big flashy number, but spread across 26 cities, that's not a huge amount, especially in context of kind of what governments spend on these problems every single day.
Right.
So we're looking for very specific things in the challenge. We're looking for new ideas, which you could consider as risk capital. So we like to consider ourselves, we're willing to fund something which hasn't been tried, hasn't been proven, whereas many funders, especially if you're using taxpayer money, require
some kind of proven,
exactly,
results.
So we're not looking for, maintenance funding, give me money to do what I did last year, again this year. We're really saying, okay, what's the thing you've always wanted to try to move these outcomes? And we have a board of around about 50 readers who are drawn from our communities and also national experts in these areas. They read through all of the applications. Last year we had 4,500. I read about 3,000 of them personally. And then we take the readers only have to read 500 each.
So this year we're going to have 3,000 applications, all from the city of Bradenton.
That would be great.
And George will read every single one of them.
He's going to read every single one of
Absolutely.
them. But I want to touch on something that you mentioned that's really important for Manatee Community Foundation. One of the things that we do with our donors that's so important in terms of making informed investments is really helping them to pair up with organizations that have that proven track record of success. So we love the fact that this is risk capital that's available, because we want to be able to touch on that too. But many of the folks that we work with, they're afraid to do that, right? Government can be afraid to do that, and individuals that have this hard-earned money. So the fact that the Knight Foundation is available to do that and take that chance, that's where great new ideas can come from. And that's one reason we are so passionate and excited about this particular project. The other thing that I want to touch on is the fact that anyone, right, can put forward an idea. It can be a business, it can be an individual. At the Manatee Community Foundation, the IRS guidelines only allow us to grant to a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And although they can generate great ideas, this allows other people into that space of innovation.
It's a wider pool of ideas to pull from. And the unique thing, if I may, George, that I would suggest to you is that looking at those unique ideas, those things that have not been tried, those things that are maybe outside of the box, is a unique way of developing that kind of community involvement. And I think that's to be applauded. I think that's a wonderful concept to look at. Well, we've never tried this, so let's see how this could work.
Why not?
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. But one
Can I
of the
give you
things,
an example?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have a project, I think one of the most successful projects that we funded in the first round of the Night Cities Challenge. It was in Philadelphia. It was a guy who saw the challenge on Facebook. So he'd never heard of Knight Foundation before, and he put in his idea. And his idea was to use, and it's only a 300-word application, by the way, so it's very easy to put in your idea. That's the first round. So his idea was to, Philly has more public pools per capita than I think anywhere apart from New York. But the demographics of people who use them tend to be much poorer than the city on average, more black and brown, and more affluent people, the whiter population, are paying to use private health clubs, which again is feeding into kind of that segregation that I was talking about earlier. So his idea was, okay, well, over the years we've developed a lot of rules about safety at these pools. No chairs on the side of the pool because they can be thrown in the pool. No, if you're in the pool, you have to be wearing a swimsuit because in case you fall in or something, I'm not sure. So his idea was, okay, let's take a step back and consider how to make this a more inviting place. We selected it as a finalist. That actually made the city listen to him. And so he worked with Parks and Rec, and they came up with this idea called the pop-up pools, which is to put in furniture, they put in palm trees, they programmed the place with programming that was kind of very inclusive, like Aqua Zumba, because
Great
everyone
idea.
looks stupid doing aqua Zumba, and no, you know, if you do things like yoga, Pilates, people know how to do it, and it's kind of a barrier to people who
Right.
don't know how to do it. But no one knows aqua Zumba, and it was hugely successful. So the usage of the pool went up about 30% on the year, and they started to see people that had never been there before, that had never thought to come to a public pool, actually using the pool. So that was the summer of 2015. For the summer of 2016, the city kind of was tracking this, and they said, well, this is amazing. How do we expand this? And they, you know, the plan was we were going to pay for 1 prototype in 2015 and 3 in 2016. But the city said, don't worry about it. We'll take this under our wing. They expanded it to 5 separate pools. And the really, which is great, but I think the thing which is going to provide another kind of extra bonus is that the city staff kind of felt reinvigorated.
I can imagine.
So they said this kind of reminds us what we're in the business for.
Exactly.
We've changed our philosophy to say yes, but how, rather than no, because. So that's a great example of.
I think that's a wonderful example of that. And that follows into things, you know, empowering people, you know, engaging a community, all of those things that are positive for the Knight Foundation. And that one simple idea to engage people is wonderful. And the application's only 300 words?
Yes. So there's 3 questions.
That's great.
You get 100 words to say what your idea is. Another 100 words to say why is this the right time for your idea, so a little about the context of what's happening, and then another 100 to say who's going to execute this idea.
And so that is, from talking with Lily, right, earlier, that's one of the very important things about this. You should be able to execute the idea.
You
It's
need
not
to
just,
be
"I've
ready
got a
to
great
execute
idea."
it.
Yes.
You can't say, here's a great idea that
It's not a
someone should go and
concept.
do.
It's not a
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah.
These are something that's very practical and very useful if put into motion. And I think that's a wonderful way to approach this. We're going to help you be ready to have your idea work.
Yeah, and you know, to go back to the pop-up pools project, his initial application, he wrote it by himself, he put it in, he didn't tell anyone about it. We selected it as a finalist. It was at that point he had to prepare the full finalist application. Then he had to go to the city. Then he had to go to, you know, any partners that he needed, programming, design, or whatever, and say, hey, here's my concept. Will you work with me? So, you know, we need to see enough in the initial application to know that you're ready to do that.
Ready to go forward.
But you don't have to have a fully formed, you know, execution plan with all your partners in place.
And I would suggest too is that once you're selected for as a finalist, you're kind of reinvigorated, and you'll find partners to work with you as you
Yep.
kind of finalize that idea as you move forward.
The idea is it gives you a little more credibility to
Absolutely.
say, I'm one of 100 and something finalists for this $5 million prize.
Susie, let's take a moment and talk about the Manatee Community Foundation and this partnership. Now, as you mentioned earlier, this has been a long-term partnership, it's been involved. But what are those critical things that you find that the Knight Foundation is bringing and making happen within the city, within our community?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that I would touch on. Many people are aware of the success of Realize Bradenton. Realize Bradenton has been one of our greatest partners working with the Manatee Community Foundation and the Knight Foundation.
Exactly.
They are creative, they're innovative, design is very important to them in everything they do. They're also a learning organization, and you can see some of the things that they've been able to produce in collaboration with artists and all kinds of other people from the city of Bradenton.
They've
And
created this dynamic.
it's an
within the
amazing
city.
dynamic that attracts people to the downtown area. It involves arts and cultural organizations, people from every walk of life. And one of the projects that we're going to be talking about tonight is the Pop-Ups for a Purpose project. And this was an incredible way to engage millennials in the city of Bradenton, ask them a little bit about why the city of Bradenton is the place they've chosen to live and why they want to stay here. So between Sarasota and Manatee counties, we're hearing a lot lately about the affordability of housing, the availability
issue.
of jobs. Why would a young, talented person want to remain in this community? And it's because of the Knight Foundation, it's because of Realize Bradenton, some of the great efforts going on at Manatee County government. They're also working to engage millennials and
much
have
so.
also received some funding from Knight, that we're really able to show we are innovative. We are listening to young people. We want to create the kind kind of community that our citizens are telling us that they want and need. And I think that goes back to a point that George made earlier. When you create community, it's not one person's idea. It comes from engaging everyone. So in Pop-Ups for a Purpose, one of the things we'll talk about tonight, this isn't just white-collar workers. It's not just white-collar millennials. It's everyone.
Everyone.
It's plumbers, it's artists, it's everyone in between. And that's really important. And I think that's listening to all of those voices.
And I think,
important.
I think you've hit some key and critical things here. Is one, in this community, we have some wonderful educational facilities. State College, University of South Florida, New College, the Ringling College of Art and Design. This is an educational corridor and has been for a period of time. But unfortunately, when somebody finishes with school, a great deal of them are moving to other areas for better opportunities, whatever the case may be. But I think that there's this effort across the board is how do we engage our young people to not only stay but to participate and contribute back to the community that they've lived in. And I think this is a critical issue, not just for Manatee and Sarasota, but throughout the country as well. So this is something that your focus on has really drawn attention to, and I think that's an important facet.
You're absolutely right. And that's one reason, with our Giving Challenge this year, which is another partnership that we have with the Knight Foundation.
Very exciting, the Giving Challenge.
So it is, and as you know, the Giving Challenge is really created by the Community Foundation of Sarasota County, and it's powered together with the Patterson Foundation, but there are other foundations that are supportive of it, and Manatee Community Foundation and Knight Foundation are two of those. And one of the reasons that we are really moving forward to encourage millennials to get involved this year is for all the reasons you just mentioned.
Well, one of the key things, and just for a general back, tell us specifically what the Giving Challenge is, and it's coming up in a week or so, and give us the audiences here kind of a broad brush idea of what's happening on those particular days.
So the Giving Challenge is September 20th and 21st from noon to noon. It will be the 5th day of giving that we have held here in this community. It benefits nonprofits in 4 different counties, and the participating organizations are qualified to participate because they created a very in-depth profile and an online tool called the Giving Partner, which helps donors and funders understand more about how they're giving and why, again, about informed, engaged communities. So in the Giving Challenge, it's an online, everything is online, 24-hour day of giving. And it's meant to really flex nonprofit muscles and have them think about very creative campaigns that they can use to engage people in our community to give. Now, there are some matching dollars available from the Patterson Foundation, and there are other grants that are available through the participating foundations to really encourage nonprofits to leverage specific opportunities. So one of the opportunities we have just for organizations that are either located in Manatee County or serving Manatee County is the Manatee Millennials Challenge. So through the Knight Foundation, we have $20,000 in grants available to organizations that pick a millennial to lead all or part of their Giving Challenge campaign. So this could be a millennial volunteer, a board member, a donor, really anyone. And the purpose is to give millennials an amazing project to showcase their leadership, and it's also to encourage younger people to get involved in organizations.
So it's a kind of a win-win situation. You're giving
win-win.
that millennial an opportunity, and I would say that having a millennial, become that spokesperson for whatever that nonprofit might be is appealing to other millennials who are watching and saying, I understand what he's saying or she is saying.
You're absolutely right.
I mean, the other thing that we really like about the Giving Challenge is that you can see your dollars going to work right in your backyard.
Exactly.
So you give to an organization that you know what they're doing in the community. And the more that we can, it goes back to the civic engagement piece. The more we can connect people with the local organizations, the stronger their attachment to place and the more that they'll be engaged in their community.
And I think, as the Giving Challenge has been underway now for a number of years, you can see the increase in individuals and organizations out there who are rallying to the cause of the nonprofits. whether large or small nonprofits. And it's a wonderful opportunity for across the board, for those organizations to raise funds so that they can continue their mission.
It is an incredible opportunity because all the funds that they raise are unrestricted, right? Those are the hardest funds to come by. And as you mentioned, it's organizations of every size. So for the first time in many of the communities around the country that are doing Giving Days, you have very small, all-volunteer organizations that find
it's a
themselves on
wonderful
the
thing.
same platform with large organizations. And so a lot of it is about how the organizations can leverage their people. And with Millennials, one of the things that we love is that they tend to give and participate within their peer network. So what
Exactly.
a great opportunity for organizations that are utilizing a millennial leader to bring new people in. Now here's what the key is and what we really want to see. We want to see that after the Giving Challenge, this is not just a 24-hour event, but the organization continues to engage those people so that they stay involved in the mission and they keep their friends coming. We hear a lot from nonprofits that say, we've got to get more young people coming to our performances, coming to our board meetings, but they don't want to change anything about the way they do their business. So by really engaging millennials and young people at the table, it's asking them, what might need to change in order to attract more of you and your peers to want to be involved? And
Bring us those ideas.
That's
Bring us your
right.
excitement. Bring us your enthusiasm, and see how
That's right.
best we can incorporate that in with the overall mission. And maybe that mission needs to change, or it can be revised in some way.
That's right.
But I think the overall scope of the Giving Challenge has really developed, and this opportunity to give the millennials an opportunity to shine, an opportunity to stand in front, an opportunity to be a leader in their community is a great opportunity. And the one thing that I would suggest to both of you is it's so remarkable how about the vision of the Knight Foundation and the vision of the Manatee Community Foundation, and all these efforts are all intertwined. They're all, for that purpose of engagement and leadership and for the betterment of communities. And I see that as this strong thread is in this fabric that you continue to make. Now, we're running out of time here, and I just want to go around the table, if I may, and talk about some key elements here. And George, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
The Knight Foundation is a wonderful organization, with a vision and a purpose that it has. This partnership with the Manatee Community Foundation is an ongoing thing as part of the Foundation's Cities Challenge. What do you see for the future? What are those things that you, as as a leader within the Knight Foundation, would like to see?
Sure. Well, one of the things which was always kind of an intention of ours with the Cities Challenge, but we probably haven't been as good at it as we could have been, is taking those lessons. So, for example, I talked about the pop-up pool project.
Right.
The challenge I see is how do we, that scaled successfully in Philadelphia, but how do we take that idea, because we don't want to scale that organization to 25 other cities, but we want to take those learnings and apply them here. So we're really thinking about ways to build up stronger networks between our cities, to try and share learning between grantees more effectively. There are online tools that we can use to do that. I think that's really where we start to scale the impact.
And I think that's a great concept. Maybe not the specifics from what happened in Philadelphia, but the outcome.
Exactly.
What were the outcomes?
Yep.
How can you take that outcome and apply it to perhaps some other city or here in this area? That's a wonderful idea, because I'm sure throughout the cities that you're involved in, you have some wonderful outcomes that have occurred and some significant things that have changed lives and changed communities.
And every city really is dealing with similar issues.
Absolutely.
So every city is in a struggle for talent. We're seeing now that people can more and more work remotely. Lots of jobs you can work wherever you like. And we've done a couple of surveys of 25 to 34-year-old college-educated people. More than half of them are saying that they choose the place they want to live and then figure out a job, as opposed to moving wherever the best job is. So the quality of life that you can produce and the place that you build is crucial to attracting and retaining talent.
And I think that's a very important point to make. And as Susie mentioned, there's a wide variety of organizations from the county level through education facilities that are looking at that. And I think that's an important asset, for us to think about as we move forward. Susie, we're going to give you the last word. This is a wonderful partnership that you've developed with the Knight Foundation, and it's a long-term kind of commitment as well. But more than that, the Community Foundation is dedicated and focused on all the great things that are here in Manatee County and try to help them as best they can. So what do you see for the future here? Well, how do you see the Community Foundation, specifically with the Giving Challenge and the Night Cities Challenge? How do you see it moving forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I love having the last word, Charles, so thank you. I want to go back to something George said and we've touched on a lot, which is having the time and the space to learn and think. You know, we work with hundreds of nonprofit organizations in our county, and most of the time, MCF included, our heads are to the ground, raising money, trying to solve these really difficult issues that are facing our community. And one of the great blessings of the Knight Foundation is they create the space and the opportunity for us to think. Think forward. What are some creative solutions? How can we take some risks? How can we learn from others around the country in terms of the innovation they've had? And looking at Realize Bradenton, how can we talk to organizations in our own backyard that have started and tried something new, which is really critical that we have that time and space to think. And most of us don't think of it that way, but in the world of nonprofits, it's very difficult to create that time and space, and this is one of the gifts we have from the Knight Foundation. You know, every year there's a wonderful symposium that they host in Miami where they invite their cities to come and learn from speakers around the country and learn from others. And having that as an example for us is incredible. We value nonprofit education, so we need to make sure that we stay on top of those trends too. And that's part of this long-term relationship that we have that will continue to evolve over time.
And not only does it continue to evolve, but strengthen and broaden its scope. And I particularly like the idea of that sharing of information, that lessons learned. If something's happening, you know, it's very successful, how best can we apply it? You know, Manatee County is very fortunate to have you as the executive director of the Community Foundation. You bring an excitement and a dynamic and an enthusiasm that's really welcome. And, you know, as you move forward with other ideas and programs, we're more than willing to help you get that message out there.
You are always very, very generous with our community, Charles. And you know, one of the things that I think we all know is that you never figure it out because things always change and communities always change. That's why there's always going to be a need. It will always evolve and change. And so all of our partners are so essential to that, from national partners, partners on the ground, and our media partners like METV are so important.
Well, we're very lucky to have you. And George, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come and to have a few minutes to talk about it. And we would welcome you back, perhaps, you know, for maybe a longer form to talk about, you know, these concepts of which are, you know, the four main pillars of which you know, the Knight Foundation is built on, which I think would be a fascinating story to tell.
Well, I'd love to do it, but let me just say one thing I realized I didn't mention so far.
Sure.
The challenge, the Knight Cities Challenge this year, it'll be open October 10th until November 3rd.
So it's a kind of a short window.
It's a short window, but it's only 300 words. And
we could do that.
You can access the application at knightcities.org.
And we're going to have that up on the screen for people to do it. And I love the thing that this is not limited just to organizations. So there's individuals, millennials or seniors that have that kind of concept that can bring something to their community. And the Knight Foundation is going to look at those and say, we can do this. You know, we can. Susie, again, thank you for taking the time, and thank you for putting this together. To have, you know, George here from the Knight Foundation, and to have your expertise and insight to share with this community is very valuable.
We're really honored to be here. Thank you so much, Charles.
Thank you, and George, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Charles.
And thank you for joining us on this special edition of Up Close on METV. Let me just...